Hello there! My name is Ruth, and I'm about to tell you a rib-tickling tale about how I met my husband Boaz, right here in the bustling little town of Bethlehem. It all started when I moved here with my mother-in-law, Naomi. She's quite the character, you know. Imagine this. 2 women, one old and one young, trying to pack a single donkey with enough stuff to last a week. Spoiler alert, the donkey was not amused, and neither were we when the pots kept clanging like a band of out-of-tune cymbals. So there we were in Bethlehem, with not much to our names and bellies rumbling like thunder. Naomi, who can be quite dramatic, suggested I go to the fields to gather some leftover grains so we could cook up a little something. "Ruth, darling, you'll be fine," she said. "Just watch out for flying grain." I wasn't sure what she meant by flying grain, but off I went. Arriving at the fields, I decided the best way to collect grain was to pretend I was in a game. I tiptoed between the tall stalks, imagining they were guards in a palace and I was a sneaky spy. At one point, I even had a little chat with a scarecrow. I told him my plans, and if scarecrows could laugh, I'm sure he would have fallen over. As I was gathering the grains, in the most comical manner you could imagine, tripping over my own feet and getting more in my hair than in my basket, along came Boaz. Now let me paint this picture. I thought he was just another worker, maybe even a scarecrow supervisor, given how sternly he watched the fields. I waved at him with a stalk of wheat and greeted him with the grandest curtsy, which only made my basket tip, sending grains showering onto a nearby worker's head. Boaz, trying not to laugh, walked over and introduced himself. "I see you've met our grain, up close and personal," he joked. I could feel my face turning as red as the sunset, but his gentle laugh made it all better. Boaz then showed me how to pick the grains properly, not that it helped much. My next attempt had me tangled in a vine. By the end of the day, Boaz invited me to keep coming back to his field. He probably figured it was worth it to see what I'd do next. I scampered back to Naomi, spilling over with stories. I exaggerated how I bravely faced the ferocious grains and battled the mighty scarecrow. Naomi laughed till tears ran down her cheeks, and as we shared a meager meal of my comedic harvest, I felt a spark of hope light up our little home. After my rather hilarious entry into the world of grain gathering, Boaz, the kind and quite patient owner of the fields, had taken a special liking to my spirited attempts at farming. He invited me to join him and his workers for a meal, and oh, what a funny feast it was going to be. As I walked towards the group, my stomach growled louder than a bear waking from hibernation. The workers sat in a circle, each with a hefty chunk of bread and a bowl of stew. Boaz waved me over with a warm smile and handed me my share. Now, here's where the fun began. I had heard that it was polite to say a blessing over the food in these parts, but my understanding of their customs was as shaky as a cart on cobblestones. With everyone's eyes on me, I stood up, cleared my throat, and declared, "Oh, mighty bread, you are, very bready. May you, not cause a tummy ache. Amen." There was a moment of silence before the whole group burst into laughter. Boaz chuckled and reassured me, "Ruth, your blessing is most unique. We'll be sure to remember it at every meal." Relieved that they took my blunder in good humor, I sat down to eat, but not without my next mishap. Eager to dig into my stew, I leaned forward too quickly, knocking my bowl with my elbow, splashing the stew onto the lap of Boaz. If I had dug a hole to hide in, it wouldn't have been deep enough. Yet, Boaz simply laughed, wiping the stew with his sleeve, and joked, "It seems your enthusiasm is as plentiful as our harvest this year." The meal continued with more laughter, especially as I tried to mimic the way they ate their bread by dipping it into the stew, only to drop the entire piece in, causing a little splash that dotted everyone's faces with spots of stew. "Look," I said, giggling, "I've marked you all with my signature stew spots." By the end of the meal, my face hurt from smiling, and my sides ached from laughing. Before we parted ways, Boaz walked up to me with a twinkle in his eye. He handed me an extra loaf of bread and said, "For your blessings, Ruth. May it be as bready as ever, and may it never cause a tummy ache." I tried to respond with a witty remark, but only managed to blurt out a thankful and bashful giggle. As I strolled back to Naomi, clutching my loaf like a trophy, I recounted the day's events. Naomi laughed heartily, her spirits lifted by my tales. It was clear that something special was blossoming in Bethlehem, woven through with laughter and lighthearted moments. And just maybe, a bit of unexpected love too. Naomi, ever the strategist, decided it was time for me to secure a future with Boaz. Her plan? A traditional proposal at the threshing floor. But as you might guess, her instructions to me sounded more like a recipe for a comedy than a courtship. "Ruth, you must go to the threshing floor," Naomi instructed. "And when Boaz is asleep, uncover his feet and lie down. It's a sign of seeking protection." I nodded, but all I could imagine was playing a game of hide and seek with Boaz's feet. "And wear your best clothes," she added. Well, my best clothes were not exactly feast-worthy, but I did have a rather loud floral shawl that could stop a donkey in its tracks. That night, I sneaked into the threshing floor, my heart thumping louder than the drums at a festival. There, amidst heaps of grain, I spotted Boaz, sound asleep and snoring like a contented sheep. True to my misunderstanding, I thought, if it's about protection, maybe I should build a fortress. So there I was, clumsily arranging grain around Boaz like a protective barrier, which only resulted in me tripping over his feet and waking him with a start. "What in the land of Israel?" Boaz exclaimed, finding himself partly buried in grain and me, with my floral shawl all askew, looking like a startled shepherdess. Bursting into giggles, I managed to say, "Naomi said something about feet and protection. I thought a grain fort might help." Boaz, once he stopped chuckling, sat up and looked at me with such tenderness. "Ruth, your heart is as golden as these grains," he said. And right there, amid the scattered wheat and under the twinkling stars, Boaz promised to take care of Naomi and me. He joked, "I'll build us a real home, no grain forts needed." Our engagement spread through Bethlehem faster than a rabbit in a cabbage patch. The preparations began, and oh, the mishaps. I tried to help sew my wedding dress, but ended up stitching the fabric to my skirt. Boaz couldn't stop laughing when he saw me waddling around, attached to what would soon be my dress. Our wedding day was filled with laughter, love, and a few more mishaps, like accidentally knocking over the wedding canopy. But it all added to the joy. As we exchanged vows, Boaz whispered, "May our life together be as joyful and full of surprises as the day we met." And so, dear friends, that's how I found love and laughter in the harvest fields of Bethlehem, alongside my dear Boaz. If you enjoyed this whimsical tale, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this story and explore our channel for more heartwarming adventures. Hit the subscribe button and bell for notifications on new uploads. Thanks for watching, and remember, every love story has its share of laughter.